Yep.
Evan, John, the rest of the team.
Mr. Chairman, you were going to adjourn so we could go to the Civic Theatre.
I don't. We're going to go. Hopefully, respectfully, we're going to listen to this, and we're going to go at about 10 to 12, 5 to 12. The mayor's going to go earlier to get ready because he's speaking, and then we are all going to adjourn the meeting.
Like to listen to music.
Claire, please.
Thank you. Through the chair. Today I'd like to, I've got a report in front of you which is to provide an update on some of the recent changes at the Tamaki Regeneration Company, and as a result of those, request that we update the current delegations that are provided for TRC. Auckland Council is a minority shareholder in the Tamaki Regeneration Company, and Tamaki TRC has 4 objectives which we support around social transformation, economic development, placemaking, and improving and increasing housing resources in the area. Over the last year, there have been a number of changes within TRC, and TRC are here to talk about their last year and where they're heading to. And these have had an impact on the operating, funding and governance arrangements. We understand that we might need to make some resolutions and approve and change some of the accountability documents that relate to TRC. So as a consequence of that, what we are seeking to do is update the delegation so that we can respond in a timely and efficient manner and reduce any risk to council around those. So those resolutions around the delegations will be provided following TRC's report.
Okay.
I'd now like to hand over to...
So, is it, Evan, and team, we just have to apologise that we are having to go to a function by 12 o'clock at the Civic Theatre, so...
We have been advised,
right,
Council, so we will attempt to be as efficient as possible.
Yep. No, it's more us being efficient probably with the questions. Right, who's going
Mr.
to
Chairman,
speak?
for those who may have questions once we've run out of time, do we have your authority to stay? Because there are a number of issues that I've wanted to pursue. We have some visibility of this through the Appointments Committee, but if you can give us the assurance, so if we want further information, we can do so at the conclusion.
Yeah.
Also, through the chair, one of the proposals that we have put in my report is that it would be worthwhile to perhaps have a workshop with the councillors, and I have talked to Councillor Darby, Chair of the Planning Committee, as whether it would be appropriate to hold that through his committee early in the new year. He was receptive to that, so that is another option that would be available.
Evan, John, whoever has...
Given my relatively recent appointment to Tamaki, John will take you through the presentation today.
Welcome.
Right, thank you, and good morning. So just a quick introduction around the team. So I've got Joanna Brain, our General Manager of Placemaking and Regeneration, and Shelley Kautai, our General Manager of Performance and Strategy. So look, we've got a presentation. We will go through it reasonably fast. Appreciate the time constraints, and yeah, it would be good to get some questions at the end. So we'll just get straight into it. Shelley?
Sure, I'll just get Jo to work that. Are you okay to, yep, you can step me through. So unfortunately, Councillor Bartley isn't here today. I believe she's in Taiwan or something like that. But a lot of you are probably very
on
familiar
council business.
Really?
on council business. Yes, I saw that on Facebook actually.
Council business?
So look, in Tamaki, we're 12 minutes from the CBD. For those of you that are familiar with us, we're surrounded by some of the richest suburbs in New Zealand. And we have 2 town centres, we have coastal land, we have quite a significant maunga in the area, culturally, locally. From a people point of view, there is approximately 23% Māori, 47% Pacific within Tamaki, 18,000 people living in 5,000 homes, of which we own 2,800 of those homes. And our community is vibrant and is strong, but also our community does it pretty hard on a daily basis, our existing community, from day to day. So if you walk down the street, 1 in every 3 households will have somebody in it that is suffering from diabetes. We fill up the renal unit over in Green Lane. 1 in every 4 children that you walk past will actually have been formally notified to SIFS. And although New Zealand's doing amazingly well from an unemployment point of view with, I think we're down to about 4% now, In Tamaki, we calculate that that's around about 30%. So there has to be a huge push for us to achieve these outcomes that we're trying to achieve across the social, economic, housing and placemaking objectives that we have as an organisation. So we're just going to delve into how we're planning on working collectively with council, community, Crown and private sector to drive those outcomes within Tamaki.
So as Shelley was saying, we do have our 4 equally important objectives: social transformation, economic development, placemaking and housing resources. But the way that the regeneration model works is that those 4 things can't happen in isolation. They're all completely interlinked. And so therefore the way that we deliver, for example, redevelopment has an impact on achieving the other social, economic and placemaking objectives. So we see them as an interweaving series of parts.
So from a social transformation point of view, there's a number of things that we're working on. So we're working on a number of fronts to improve outcomes for the people of Tamaki. And I'm just going to delve into a couple of these as opposed to going in depth into all of them. So one of the initiatives we've led since December 2013 is the creation of a jobs and skills hub. We are now at a point where we have employed 460 locals into employment. We have an 83% retention rate, and we are reaching some of the hardest to reach whānau within Tamaki and assisting them into employment and mentoring past that employment position. So we're up to a run rate now of about 200 to 250 locals into employment per annum, which on any comparison is regarded as an excellent result. Secondly, we've been working in the last 12 months on an education strategy. There's 3 things that have prompted that. One, we only have 30% of our local secondary school age kids engaged in secondary school. We have only 60% engaged at primary school level. We will double or triple the population in the coming 15 to 20 years. So we need to be ready from an education system point of view. We've led a co-design project with the infrastructure team from MOE, with the local Kahui Ako, with the regional team on the ground and ADHB to develop a 30-year strategy for education outcomes within Tamaki across education infrastructure, learning and pedagogy, teacher support and also wellbeing services with ADHB. And the last one to point out, we're driving not just the supply of affordable houses, of which we've delivered 50 to date, a lot of those under the SHA regime, and we will click into KiwiBuild later. But also we are getting locals ready to take up those affordable housing opportunities. So we have 32 locals ready currently after working with them over the last 3 years to step into affordable housing opportunity within the next 12 months. And that will be, we're hopeful, into shared equity product, because shared equity product actually targets some of our larger Māori and Pacific whānau as well, whereas KiwiBuild tends to miss some of our local whānau.
Absolutely.
So on economic development, the key push at the moment is around town centres for us. So our economic development space is all about creating employment opportunities and investment into Tamaki. Around the town centres particularly, our focus has been on planning what the outcomes will be in those town centres. So we've been working with Panuku on what they've been doing around Panmure Town Centre, and we've been working across a agency group with Auckland Transport and Council around what we might do in the Glen Innes Town Centre. So in our next delivery tranche, we'll be kicking into trying to implement some of those outcomes that we've set out in those plans. From a placemaking point of view, similarly, we've been doing quite a bit of planning work in the space around what does our placemaking strategy look like. Here it's about how do we deliver the appropriate social infrastructure and community amenity to make sure that the people who come to Tamaki and this community that's already there can live in a way that will bring benefits to them. So making sure that this isn't all about the housing, it's actually about those broader outcomes that we want to see happen within the Tamaki area.
Finally, the housing resources strategic priority. 154 houses delivered last year. We've currently got over 600 in the pipeline. You've probably heard that we're in the process of partnering with HLC to be the master developer for the area. We retain the responsibility for all other regeneration outcomes, including developing the master plan, which we're just completing at the moment. The other key aspect of this area is obviously the tenancy management, so looking after nearly 2,700 tenancies, the thousands of people that live in those houses, and doing that at a really, really good tenant satisfaction level. We're actually hitting a 84, 85% satisfaction rate with our tenant satisfaction, which is great against international benchmarks.
Great. So we think it's the way that we do things. It's one of the key distinguishing differences from ourselves and other entities. So we really do try and make sure that our design, whether it be from a physical infrastructure point of view across housing, parks, transport, town centres, etc., is actually very much community customer-centric design. And the same going with social service delivery and social services. So really understanding those insights and making good evidence-based decisions. The other thing that we pride ourselves on is our organisational culture, which if you've, some of you have walked into our offices, but it's very much, manaakitanga, and we are very open and transparent, and we care. And I know that sounds ridiculous, but that's actually a really important part of delivering in a community from a brownfields point of view. And the other thing is we have an amazing back end, and what that means is that we have very good back end systems from a financial, commercial point of view. We run great co-design systems, etc. as well. So it's those three factors that I think are important. On evaluation, look, you probably can't see how in depth we actually measure things, and the sophisticated system that we have established to actually really understand what's working and what's not, and make sure that that feeds back into our operational delivery. You can't see that from our SOI SPE, because actually there's only about 1% of our entire KPIs listed in that SOI SPE. But just to give you an example, when we're building physical neighbourhoods, we're actually using community surveys, of which we're getting about 80% return, because we use a community social enterprise to survey kanohi ki te kanohi. So we deeply understand the impact of redevelopment on people's lives across quality of life, social cohesion, and other domains, engagement with us as well. We also look at it through a quality neighbourhood framework, which essentially we measure the quality of a physical build, and we use IDI as well to understand changes in crime rates, etc. too. So we're quite sophisticated. We work in partnership with Otago University for the evaluation, and also NZIER to try and actually monetise those benefits that we're delivering within Tāmaki.
Working in Greenfield isn't without its challenges, as you'll appreciate. It's Brownfield. It's quite different from working in Greenfield environments. We've definitely learnt over the last couple of years what some of those challenges are, not just infrastructure, but also the pace and the change that the community can absorb. So working through those challenges. We're also working in an ever-changing environment, new Crown, new government, new expectations on us, HLC coming into the mix, as I mentioned before, us needing to go to market for funding to help the purchase of the state houses that we're buying back. So ever-changing and complex environment that we're working in. I think that's the end of the presentation. So yeah, really happy to take questions.
Right, questions, folks? I think everyone is obviously very encouraged by the work, because there's no questions. Councillor Cooper. And
Yeah, I'm going to speak from a health perspective because that's my background, but also just really concerning around the health status of a lot of people, which also often precludes them from work, things like that, and then just, bigger and bigger families, and it's really difficult. Is there a lot of work being done in that area as part of Tāmaki redevelopment, or are those sort of partners in the health area around preventative, I suppose, not preventative, but preventative health messages? Is there any work being done in that area? Because I see that as a big barrier to work if you're ill.
Oh, absolutely. I completely support that sentiment. So there's a huge amount of work being done in collaboration. So we're actually co-located with the ADHB design team, and we're actually working through priorities from a community point of view methodically with them. So one of the big ones we're working on is the renal dialysis, because of the issues within the area.
Should never get to that. That's what I'm talking about, really.
Yes, yeah. So actually we pulled together a deal, yes, with investors. So we're building a $6 million facility out there, and we've got community involved in that. We're also working at the moment on visioning for a wellbeing hub that will house strength-based services alongside primary healthcare and secondary healthcare. we're working on intensive support services for the 247 whānau that have 6+ risk factors that are doing it pretty hard and engaging with probably up to 20 agencies trying to get their health needs met and other social determinants of health.
And sorry, I probably missed it because my thing won't download on here. But,
Right.
In terms of things like working with local vendors in terms of, you know, the sugary drinks that take away, we know that all local shops have, you know, a selection of all those sorts of cheap and easy foods. How is that even possible? Is that something you aim for? Because I mean, it's just common in every. So, I mean, I'm from West Auckland, so
Yeah,
we have similar issues, right?
absolutely.
So is that something, because I mean, you're never going to get to the root of this without cutting out those sorts of meals and foods, because that's often at the root of this, you know, and not being able to know how to cook or get the right ingredients. So are there any programs around that, or working with the government on that sort of?
It's hard to control from a
Or-
private sector point of view, but where we've started collaboratively with the schools is the availability of food through the school system, and that's been driven mainly by the schools and with us in support. But no, there's not a broader strategy for the private sector within Tāmaki at this stage.
And thank you for your indulgence, because I think a lot of this is at the root of a lot of the issues, you know, just thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for the work that you're doing. It's really essential.
Thank you.
We're getting a little bit of a roll call here of people wanting to ask questions. Can I ask you guys, are you able to stay on till 1 o'clock? I mean, Evan can go, I mean, if you've got other things, and we can offer you lunch in the meantime. But we really all have to go in a few minutes, or some of us have to go for a few minutes, and then we're resuming at 1 o'clock.
Quorum collapse.
Eh?
Quorum will definitely collapse.
Yeah.
Okay, good. We're happy to stay.
Are you happy to stay?
Yeah.
Okay. Right, we'll take just Councillor Cashmore, and then we will adjourn, and then is that all right? Or Councillor Fletcher, do you want to go now?
Oh, well,
You go now, Councillor.
thank you, I appreciate that. I have watched you really closely, and we have an unusual situation in terms of accountability for our investment with you, in that it's, as you know, it's an investment with the Crown, and we have this matter come before the Appointments Committee, so we do the appointments for directors through the Appointments Committee. Some comes through planning and some comes through this committee. I guess what I'm really wanting to understand, and the brief that you have is so important, is just in a governance sense, how is it coming together? How is it gelling? That relationship that we have with the board, and it's just such an exciting project. It would be really good to get at a director level some kind of insight into how it's going operationally.
Thank you, Councillor Fletcher. I think agreeing wholeheartedly, and that in part, of course, is why I am there, with the sentiments being expressed as to the importance of the work and the opportunity. Clearly, in a number of areas, extremely good progress has been made. I think that Tāmaki is an exemplar of what can be done in a broad regeneration project to consider issues of importance beyond simply the built form, the bricks and mortar infrastructure, and the work that the organisation has done and continues to do with broader community issues, health, education, and so forth, I think is both critical and is a fine example for what broadly we will need to tackle in other areas of the city and the country that aspire to pursue similar outcomes as a consequence of similar problems. I think that there is opportunity to significantly improve going forwards the manner in which the governance structure supports those objectives and engages with its two shareholders to encourage, enable the support and assistance that will continue to be required from both Crown and Council if those objectives are to be achieved. And we will be coming to Council as a significant contributor to to the requirements for the future success of this project overall, particularly in the infrastructure space, for that will have to be dealt with if our and your objectives are ultimately to be achieved.
Because I'm very mindful, you're not a CCO, so some of the normal mechanisms that we would have, or levers, is there any insight there would appear to have been a few road blockages. Are there any observations that you would make or advice that you would give us in terms of there not be road blockages in the future?
I think there are opportunities for improved communication, and particularly for clarity of communication. So I think in both directions we need to ensure that there is a very clear message as to what is required, what is needed, and then what is capable of being produced to enable the outcomes that we're charged with achieving.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I mean, if we are to have this workshop as being proposed at the beginning of next year, I think it's really important that Council is very clear about its own brief.
Totally, and especially if there's budget implications, no question. Right, now I'm going to move the adjournment of this meeting at this stage, seconded by Councillor Casey. All those in favour?
Aye.
Aye. Sandra here will guide you down to where you can have lunch. The 1 hour break we're having includes your half-hour lunch break, folks, so those who want to go to the Civic for the launch of the UNESCO City of Music, that's on at 12 o'clock. So.
And Councillor, thank you for your...